Hi everyone, I'm Ali GREYMOND. Today I'm answering questions that you asked under my Please Ask a Question About OCD video. First question is, thank you Ali for your videos, really helped. You're very welcome, I'm happy to do them. But in religious OCD, it is really difficult to take blasphemous thoughts casually and not pay attention. Also, doing ERP for the same is so complicated and doesn't feel comfortable. Please tell me more about religious OCD. So with religious OCD, it will always kind of try to tell you somehow you're a bad person, you're going against religion, you're getting these thoughts. You have to kind of look at the situation as if you are in a bubble. And these thoughts that are happening, a lot of the times people will say, well, when I'm praying, I get a lot of thoughts, or just throughout the day, I'm getting a lot of thoughts. These thoughts are happening outside of you. You can't stop them. That's the whole thing about having OCD is you feel like you have no control over these thoughts. They just pop in, right? So, and they pop in very real, and you may feel like you actually like the thought or you want the thought. All of this is very, very common, but it's still happening outside of you. OCD can control the thoughts, the feelings that go along with the thoughts, the anxiety that comes with the thoughts, and when you kind of, and even physical sensations, right? It can send you images as well. So can you imagine, right, having a thought that comes with anxiety, comes with an image, comes with a feeling, comes with a physical sensation? Yeah, it's going to feel very real, but it is all a lie, and it is happening outside of you. You are in your bubble. You're trying your best to disregard. You're trying your best, if you're just trying to kind of taking first steps and to understand OCD, a lot of the times you try to, push the thoughts away and all of this kind of stuff, which is actually not a good thing to do. But that's kind of the instinct, right? Is just to push the thoughts away, to run away from the thoughts, to somehow stop them from coming in, right? But when you do that, you show your brain that you are afraid. And if you're showing your brain that you're afraid, your brain will send you more of that which you are afraid of. That's why OCD will target what is the most precious to you. It will target the opposite of what you actually want. So, for example, if you are a very, very moral person, you will have highly immoral thoughts. If you, for example, say if you work in the medical field, you can have harm OCD or contamination OCD. If you work, say, with children or with elderly, right? You can get harm-related OCD thoughts, right? It goes literally for the opposite of who you are, and that is why it's so distressing to people. Because people who are bad people, right, in whatever way, like really bad. I mean, not like people who think they're bad because they have OCD, but actually bad people. They don't worry about being bad. That's not an issue for them. You know, they know they're bad. They don't care. That's the whole problem with them, right? So, but OCD mimics that and makes you feel, well, but what if you're that person? But what if you want it? Da, 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 da. But it feels so real, and creates this whole story. And remember, like you can come up with some incident or whatever, but there was this one situation and you reacted like this, and what does this mean? And compare this to that, da, 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 and starts to connect things, right? So you have to always look at it that all these thoughts are happening outside of you. I always equate it to if you bought a parrot and the parrot already learned something and now it's telling you this all the time on autopilot, it's just telling you things. You're not going to say, oh, it's telling me this for a reason. No, you're just looking at it, okay, like it learned something, now it's just repeating it over and over again. So what? You're not looking to it like it's telling you the truth, but because this is happening in your brain, you're looking at it as this is kind of some sort of a hidden thing that is now coming up or whatever. It's not. It's all a giant lie. It's happening outside of you. You have no control over any of this. Not over the feelings, not over the anxiety that comes in on autopilot, not over the thought itself. The only thing you can control is you can control your reaction to the thoughts. And if you react to it like, this is all a lie, I've reacted to this long enough, I am done, I'm not doing this anymore, over and over again, the brain will get the message that this is no longer valid and it will stop sending this to you. And this works the same way for any type of OCD, including religious OCD. So whenever it tells you, but it feels like you feel like you want it, or you feel like you want something bad to happen, or whatever. Somehow, something, you're a bad person, basically, right? It tells you, you have to disregard. So when you say ERP for the religious OCD is so complicated, OCD tries to make it complicated. You just have to continuously disregard to the best of your ability. And it's not an all or nothing issue. It's not either you disregard 100% or you give in altogether. It's levels, right? As you go, you're going to be able to better disregard. So some stuff right now you might fall for and pay attention and do reassurance behaviors, but some stuff you might be able to dismiss. And as you continue to push forward, you'll be able to dismiss more and more. So it's just a step-by-step process of, no matter what, every day doing the recovery work, you know? In terms of how you're saying it doesn't feel comfortable, ERP never feels comfortable. You just have to make your peace with it, that for the next little while, you're going to be uncomfortable. You know, there's nothing we can do about it. That's just the reality of the situation. You're going to be uncomfortable, but this is the way of recovery, you know? So it's living, you know, what, you know, they say living with uncertainty, right? So after a while of doing this, you will start to feel comfortable in the uncertainty, and it won't feel, you know, kind of that scary to you, you know? But the reality is, it's all a lie, and you have to always disregard, no matter how real it feels. Next question is, how do I stop analyzing? So there's two things here. So when a thought comes in, it comes in with some sort of an argumentative fact, let's say, right? Well, not like an actual fact, but like some sort of a kind of a trigger situation, right? But like explanation, basically. So that's autopilot. That just comes in, you have no control over that. But then what is your response? So you can choose to respond, or you can choose to delay, or you can choose not to respond entirely. I find that if you're having trouble analyzing, try delaying, right? So like having trouble not analyzing, I mean, try delaying, because that's kind of like you're not really closing the door on the situation. You're kind of leaving it a little bit open, and sometimes it helps to push through, where you say, okay, yeah, I am aware of the situation. I will not analyze it right now, but I will analyze it, say, a week from now if I need to, you know, and that way you feel a little bit more comfortable, you know, and 99% of the time in a week you don't even care anymore because it's gone and done, you know? So it's just that kind of a thing, right? Where you have to stop yourself from doing it. So if, say, thought came in, you analyzed for 5 minutes, realized you're analyzing, and stopped, you know, that's probably the best you can do, especially in the beginning of OCD recovery. But as you go, you have to be more on guard and refusing to analyze as much as possible. It's literally refusing all the way. You know, there's no easier way. There's no way to refuse and at the same time diffuse the anxiety. You know, when you refuse analyzing, the anxiety is gonna get higher because you're basically you're going against what the brain wants, so it's gonna raise the anxiety in order to push you into reassurance behaviors. So it's just little by little, just like I said with the other question. It's not an all or nothing issue. It's as much as possible, reduce that amount. So if you can, try to track it. So in the course of a day, how long did I spend analyzing? Okay, so I spent, say, an hour in the morning, then, you know, got a little bit better, then it was like, you know, maybe 20-30 minutes. You know, keep that count, because you need to be accountable for it, you know, with especially with these kinds of thought compulsions, right, where it's not a physical thing. Understanding how much time you spend on it is important. The next question is, hi Ali, can you say how to do ERP for scrupulosity, especially if you have death obsessions too? Thank you for your helpful videos. So I mean, it's the same exact process as I was describing with the previous two questions. You know, any kind of obsession, it's the same idea, right? So depending how your thoughts go, try to kind of if, okay, so say for example, if you think, oh, what if this person dies, what if that person dies, try to reply sarcastically like, yep, they're all gonna die, everyone's gonna die, you know. I think I say this so many times in sessions, you know. If any of my clients are listening to this, they're probably like, yeah, this is what she says all the time, you know, because it's like, it's a very kind of sarcastic response, like, yep, everyone's gonna die, you know, rather than you start to dig and analyze and trying to figure it out, you know. Don't do that, you know. Just look at it that, nah, whatever, you know. I thought OCD thought about red balloon, whatever. OCD thought about death, whatever. Doesn't matter. If the brain doesn't know what it is, and the brain can't tell the difference of what's important and what's not, and what the topic is, and is looking at it as just signals, why should you care, and why should you take it seriously and really dig in, you know? Right? And then scrupulosity, depending on what exactly your triggers are, try to at least kind of, if you feel like it's really hard to do any kind of exposure, try to at least rattle the cage a little bit, like the OCD cage, so to speak, right? Where you're doing things imperfectly, right? So maybe you're doing the compulsion, but you're not doing it quite to the extent that OCD wants, and slowly start getting out of it. You know what I mean? So you're doing less and less of a compulsion, less and less perfectly, you know, until you're not doing it at all. If you feel like it's just not working and it's really, really difficult. But they're, you know, all of these OCD themes, it's just a topic, you know. What you do with that topic is what matters. And a lot of the times, OCD themes switch from one to another because the brain doesn't even understand what the theme is. So if you react to some other signal with a lot of fear, it will easily switch to that signal because it just looks at it as signals, you know? It doesn't, the brain itself, like that part that's causing you to have the thoughts, it doesn't have any special meaning to any of these things, you know. It's just looking at you, what you're doing, you know. You heard something in the news that triggered you, okay, we can switch to that, no problem, you know. Oh, you're scared of a red balloon, okay, we can switch to the red balloon. It doesn't care. And that's what I'm saying. Just because it has to do, a lot of the times people get stuck when they say, well, it has to do with religion, or it has to do with sexuality, or it has to do with harm, you know, and this is such a bad thought, and how can I possibly have the thought? Well, you know, the part of the brain that's auto-generating this thought has no idea what the thought is about, you know, and you are just the victim of these thoughts, you know. You're not the what, you know, the I mean, you're not causing these thoughts, you know. The part of the brain is generating them on autopilot, and you are the victim of it, you know, who's taking all of this suffering, you know. But you don't have to be the victim. You can push through and you can get through it, but it's daily effort, you know. And daily effort is very different from daily suffering. They're not the same thing at all. Next question is, thank you, Ali, for helping OCD patients. God bless you always. And thank you so much. Everybody's so nice in the comments, you guys. Thank you so much for everything, for watching, and for supporting this channel. You know, I'm happy to put this information out there because honestly, you know, like I talk to clients all day, and just the stories I hear of, you know, how there's so little help out there, and so little people who actually know what they're talking about in terms of like doctors and whatever, therapists. It's just, it's really bad, and it's bad all around the world. I talk to clients all around the world. I can't tell you that one country is better than another country. It's all pretty bad, you know. So the question is, I have guilt OCD, so I couldn't differentiate thoughts related to guilt. Is my own thought, or is this thought coming in my mind because of OCD? If it is OCD thought, how do I react on it? Okay, so whenever you're doubting, is this guilt OCD thought or your own, that automatically means that it is an OCD thought, you know, because you wouldn't even get this thought if it was for real. You know, if you go back and think to an actual situation, we're all human, you know, sometimes we do things wrong from time to time, right? So in that situation, did you ever think, oh gee, maybe this is OCD? You know, no, you knew you did something that you felt guilty about, right? But when it comes to this what if, that is OCD, you know. So whenever you think maybe it's OCD, yes, it is OCD. So that we established. And how do you react to it? You react to it as this is happening outside of your bubble. You have no control over it. And because you have no control over it, it has nothing to do with you, right? This has nothing to do with you. Just like you're having an absurd thought, you're also having an absurd feeling of guilt. You know, try to look at them the same. The thought versus the feeling of guilt versus the feeling of shame versus an image that you're getting in your mind versus a physical feeling you're getting. You know, it's all the same thing. It's all an OCD package. Some people get package with these components, some people get packaged with these components, you know, so because they're not, all of those things are not always present in every OCD situation, but they potentially can be, and they can develop, and maybe not present at first, but they develop as the person goes through the OCD situation, right? So look at it as, oh well, yeah, I'm getting guilt, so what? OCD guilt, you know. I would say in terms of the feelings of guilt, most people who have OCD get feelings of guilt. Not everybody, but most people. Some types of OCD just don't have a guilt component to it, but I would say most people have a guilt component to it. Next question is, can you please say some more on OCD and sleep? I am regularly tired. I try to go by the general advice of a sleep routine, going to bed early and getting up at the same time with a few periods of waking up with anxiety. I sleep fairly well, it seems, but after a while, I tend to find I build up excessive tiredness and need to sleep in the day. I feel like my brain needs this because it is so overloaded, but I can also feel guilty for sleeping so much. I worry this is harmful. A lot of sleep advice suggests that sleeping in the day is not healthy. What is your experience with clients? I recommend that you sleep throughout in the middle of the day, because think about this. Your state right now of having OCD is not natural. So just by that, you know, we can throw out advice about natural states, because this is not even for you, okay? So you are in an unnatural situation where your brain is working overtime. That's just OCD, right? On top of it, now you've decided to do recovery work, which adds extra pressure. So already you had OCD, started to push yourself further with recovery work. Now, if you also, I don't know your situation, but if you also have pressure in regular life stuff, you know, stresses, not necessarily even bad stresses, but stresses in regular life stuff, you know, that makes things even worse, you know? So you have to look at all of those things and say, okay, when is my brain going to rest from all of this, right? Do I need regular rest, or like people who don't have OCD and don't have all of these additional issues? Or do I need special amount of rest to help me heal, to help the brain heal? And that's what I'm saying to you, that if you feel tired, it is not just like by accident. This is your brain sending you a signal that, hey, I'm tired, I need a nap, you know? So take the nap. In terms of the guilt, it could be OCD guilt and OCD theme related to sleep developing, or it could just be just you feeling guilty. Either way, disregard. It's irrelevant. It has nothing to do with you. Don't search up anymore on sleep issues online, because you're just going to get so many different advice, so much different advice, and it's not going to be really, it has to be OCD related. But the point is, you're tired, so you need rest. You know, I do find meditation is helpful. It's been proven to reduce the amount of sleep the person needs. Again, I'm not saying that you need to do meditation as a way to substitute sleep. I'm just saying, for overall to help the body relax, it might be good to include that in your day, but I would still do nap on top of doing meditation. So say, for example, you lay down in the middle of the day, do a little bit of meditation while laying down, and then fall asleep. You know, just look up on YouTube any guided meditation, like half an hour, something like that will do. You know, but it will help you relax the body more, because they're just relaxation practices, really, you know, at this level that we're talking about, right? So, and we're just trying to calm the mind, calm the brain, and give it some room to actually heal, you know, because if it doesn't, it's like if you have a wound and you're picking at the wound, it's not going to heal, you know, because you're not giving it the opportunity to heal, you know. Next question is, hi Ali, should I write all of my obsessions down or just disregard when the thought comes in to get a better result? You know, this is a kind of a complicated question. Yeah, it seems a very simple question. It's not really. It depends on your situation. If you feel like the obsessions are repetitive, right? For example, I always have this trouble, a lot of trouble, say, in this area of the house, or I always have trouble in this situation, or this thing really triggers me, right? Then you have to address it as a special thing, basically, you know. So you have to do ERP for that specific thing to get it out of the way. If they are coming and going though, and generally you can just disregard and they kind of go away and just get replaced with something else, like they don't repeat themselves much that you notice, then I would say then it's probably not a good idea to write it down. Just, I would say, write it down if you really need to, because whenever you write anything down, there's a good there's a good chance that this can become a compulsion of writing things down, um, and keeping going like that, you know. So then it's going to be something that you need to overcome later. So I wouldn't. If you don't absolutely need to, don't. Next question is, hi Ali, I had a really bad setback a month ago. Recently I started ERP, but I've been feeling too weak and numb. I still can't go back to doing the things I used to do. My question is how to pick myself up and find the strength to study again. I'm a master's student working on thesis. I have another question. I noticed that my OCD relapses always happen around a specific time in the year, June and July. I haven't found a good explanation for that. Is this how relapses happen? They attach themselves to a specific period and they keep happening over and over again? I don't understand. Um, so in terms of ERP, you know, if kind of look at it as a progression. If you can only crawl right now and you can't walk and you definitely can't run, then crawl, but crawl every day and eventually you'll be able to walk and then eventually you'll be able to run. So don't take it as all or nothing. Even if you can get through not doing one exposure, right? Then do half of an exposure. You know, do, if you can't even do that, then do just a little bit less of a compulsion. Do the compulsion imperfectly. Start somewhere. In terms of how to pick yourself up, find the strength to study again. You know, you're in a tough situation. You just have to do it to the best of your ability. You know, I have a lot of students who are in this situation actually. Um, you know, you just have to do it to the best of your ability. There's not really, because you need the time to heal. I would say same as the previous answer. You do need rest. Don't push yourself to the limit, you know. um, but at the same time, it's just do something every single day. In terms of the time of year, because you are a student, I think that it might have something to do with that. So, is there anything school related or schedule change related that happens around June and July? Any kind of a shakeup can really aggravate OCD. If you're traveling a lot, traveling also kind of creates more of an anxiety usually. So it's usually related to that. I don't really see a lot of kind of setbacks happening around June and July. A little bit, because again, the shift in circumstance, because people are finishing school. But I usually see people get much worse around fall, especially I would say not like September, but more October, November time, because the seasonal disorder, whatever they call it, then that plays a role, I believe, because I just see it all the time. So I would say it probably is related to something, some sort of a situation that's going on in your life that's repetitive. So try to take a look at what it is, and then start exposing yourself to it. That, yeah, you know, whatever, things are gonna shift, things are gonna change, or just the thought itself, like, yeah, gonna feel worse in June. Oh, you know, gonna start feeling worse right now. Bring it on. If you're aggressive about it, then the OCD can't come in as strong. But if you start to run away from it, that's when it gets stronger, because you're giving that power to it. Um, Next question is, hi Ali, thanks for valuable videos. I wanted to ask, there are small strokes comes in the stomach like when we sit in ride. Is it because of OCD? If yes, what to do? It's hard for me to say. First of all, I'm not a doctor. Second of all, I don't know your situation. I would say anxiety, you can feel strong anxiety in your stomach. So I would say go get checked out. And if they can't find anything, then chances are it is anxiety. And if it's anxiety, there's not much you can do. You just have to do ERP. Usually, physical symptoms of anxiety happen between 10 out of 10 OCD to, I would say, maybe 7 out of 10 OCD. Any lower, you really shouldn't have that many symptoms, and the symptoms can also include like stomach cramps, constipation, or loose stool. Not to like gross people out, but you need to know these things. Also, in like within the body, like you can get like headaches, you can feel disoriented. This is where a lot of people start to worry about depersonalization, all this kind of stuff, because they feel they're not like in the body, so to speak. They feel that they're not connected, kind of thing, because they're so worried. So all of these things are very, very common, and they'll go away on their own as you're doing ERP recovery. Next question is, hi Ali, in regards to Puro, what should you do when you're exposed to a trigger for an extended period of time? So when you're exposed to the trigger for an extended period of time, that gives you plenty of exposure. You need to do response prevention. So exposure is exposure, but exposure is not going to help you if you don't do, I say, do exposures, but what I really mean to say is do exposures and response prevention. It's just, I hope, people kind of been listening to this channel long enough to understand what I mean. But yeah, exposure, anybody who has OCD is in exposures all the time. It's the response prevention that you need to be doing. And this gives you a lot of opportunity for that, which technically should help you recover faster if you actually take those opportunities. Next question is, what is the fastest way to get over our OCD? So our OCD is not different than any of the relationship OCD, right? It's not really different than any other type of OCD. You just have to look at it that whatever thought you're getting, like just sarcastically agree to it and disregard. Yeah, sure, whatever. Moving on, Don't dissect, don't analyze, don't ask or confess or reassure or whatever. Don't do any of those things. That is the fastest way to recover, because it's not just for our OCD, for any type of OCD, because it's how much you're giving in versus how much you're refusing to give in. As soon as you start to refuse a lot, the brain will start to send you thoughts, like they're coming out of a machine gun, basically. It's just going to be like all the time, one after another. But you will see that even though the thoughts are coming in really fast, your anxiety is actually not that high, because they're switching too fast to really give you like a strong feeling, like a strong impact. It just kind of goes right through, right? So and this will continue to happen, and they will become from, if you start out having a few very loud thoughts, you will have these machine gun type thoughts, but they will be at a whisper level, and then they just fade away into nothingness. That's usually how it goes. Hi Ali, how do I keep myself from judging myself too harshly during OCD recovery? I feel like that this is a compulsion, judging in itself. Yes, it is. It is a compulsion, and you need to stop doing that. The more you judge, the worse you're gonna feel. And you're just continuing OCD. So you just say, did I try my best today? Not your best in the sense of if everything was perfect, what would I do? But your best in the sense of what is the actual reality of the situation. Was I stressed? Was I doing this? Was I doing that? If you're busy, if you're stressed, you only have so much room to push. So given the circumstance, did I really try my best? Okay, moving on. You know, what can I do better tomorrow based on what happened today, where I fell down today? What can I change for tomorrow, right? Also, just learning from the experience. This is not a guilt thing. You know, you just try to do your best with the tools that you're given. You know, a lot of the things can happen around you also that are outside your control. You know, so you have to give yourself some slack, and and I do think that it can definitely be a compulsion, you know, an obsessive thought and a compulsion, you know, to be judging, to try to figure it out. Again, you're going into this pattern of reassurance and solving the issues, right? Whenever you're intensely solving something, chances are it's OCD. These are all the questions for today. I have a lot more questions, but I will answer them tomorrow. If you would like to do the private one-on-one recovery program with me, all the information is on youhaveocd.com. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you tomorrow.